The Star Sport podcast is brought to you in association with Access Credit Union. Access Credit Union now offers Cultivate Farm Finance and is ready to support local farmers. Cultivate is a farm finance option available from 40 credit unions around Ireland, including Access and Bantry credit unions here in West Cork. With a Cultivate loan, farmers in West Cork can benefit from the local decision-making and personal service offered by their credit union. To find out more, go to www.accesscu.ie/cultivate or call on 028 21 883. Cultivate is a loan specifically designed for farmers that provides short to medium term loan opportunities built specifically around the growing needs of our farming members.
Close your eyes and pull like a dog.
Check the mic and make sure it sound right, boys.
Hello and welcome to the Star Sport podcast. My name is Jack McCarran of the Southern Star and I'm joined as always by Star Sport editor Kieran McCarthy. Before we kick things off, I'd just like to give a gentle reminder to our listeners and viewers to please rate, review and subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. The Star Sport podcast is brought to you in association with our friends at Access Credit Union. Access Credit Union, where your bank really does matter. Choose a credit union, choose local, choose community. Over the last few weeks on the podcast, we've been focusing on the rebuild the Cork senior men's footballers are going through under new manager Keith Ricken. Well, the women's senior team have a new man in charge too, and on Saturday we got the chance to see Shane Ronayne's side in action for the first time when they took on Meath in Navan. Ronayne's first game in charge unfortunately ended in defeat to the current All-Ireland champions, but there wasn't much between the sides, and on today's show we'll chat to Skibbereen's Laura O'Mahony, who was very impressive at halfback. But Kieran, first off, we're recording this show on February 15th, the day after your favourite day of the year, Valentine's Day, and I think a lot of our listeners really want to know how serious you take Cupid's favourite holiday. Are you an old romantic or a cynic who pays no heed to such frivolous events?
I am an old romantic, but I'm a cynic around Valentine's Day because, like you, Jack, I can see it for what it is. It's a money grabber. It's a money grabber. So now with a nice quiet Valentine's, we followed our same tradition over the last couple of years, where my better half cooks me a lovely meal on Valentine's night, and I shower her with flowers and Ferrero Rocher, and that is basically it. I think we're getting old at this stage. So those days where we used to send bunches of flowers. Well, actually, that's a story. Actually, going back to my very old days when I was in the Kingdom newspaper in Killarney. One Valentine's Day, I got a bunch of flowers sent to the office for me from my better half, and she also sent a wrapped box, and it was actually a day I was off. So the old boss in the Kingdom rang me to say there's a box in here for you, Kieran, to come in and open it. And this is on a Tuesday. So I landed into work and my colleagues were around the place, and it was a box wrapped in love hearts and all that. And I opened the box and there was a teddy bear and a pair of handcuffs. So as you can imagine, in front of my work colleagues, that was a source of great amusement. I went as red as a Valentine's rose could be, but she well and truly got me in that one. So since then, the gifts have been a lot more along the traditional route, let's put it that way.
Talk to me about flowers then, because I got some land when ordering a bunch of roses this year to be delivered to our apartment, and I thought I was being, quite proactive. I was well organised. I had it ordered nearly 4 days before the big occasion, and I stumped up like, €80 odd, and I thought I was spending big bucks. I was like, I'm going to get serious kudos now. An €80 bunch of roses. This is going to be class. I am going to be kingpin, top of the world, anything I want. But when they arrived then, it was like an old bunch of flowers you'd buy from a petrol station on the old Dublin road. Like, there was no real class or style to this €80 bunch of roses. It was pretty much a petrol station bunch. And I was shocked. I was disgusted. This is what Valentine's Day has become. They're taking €80 off me for a shitty bunch of roses. So I think it's the last time I'm going to engage in flower buying on Valentine's Day, because I don't know whether it's inflation or it's just taking advantage of idiots like myself. But yeah, they won't
I'm
be
actually
getting my
surprised you
80
stuffed
euro
up the
again.
money for it, Jack, to be quite honest. Knowing you as I do, I'm surprised you parted with €80 for a bunch of flowers. But I suppose we're revealing all about here at home as well, and she's going to love me for this. But we went through a phase a couple of years back where she said, do not get me flowers, because she just thought it was a waste of money at the time. That's changed since then, because she has a penchant for flowers now. But there was a stage there where she said, just get me something that I'll use, something that I'll get worked out of. Obviously, flowers are lovely for Valentine's Day, and I did get her flowers this year, but we did go through that phase where it was something that she'd get more value or use out of. So maybe next year, for your better half, you could invest that €80 in something that she'll enjoy for maybe longer than a week and a half, 2 weeks.
No, I tell you what I'll be doing based on what I got for the €80. I'll be purchasing the flowers from a petrol station next year, and I'll be just dressing them up slightly nicer so they look like an €80 bunch of roses, and I'll save the extra 50 for myself. I might go to the pub, I might just go to the chipper and absolutely pig out, but I will not be dropping €80 with some disgusting flower delivery business that
Like, who said romance is dead? Who said romance is dead? Like, all our listeners listen to this chat, they'll know that there's two Romeos here. Like, kind of Cupid's arrow has really got us, and we've two lucky other halves who probably don't listen to this podcast, Jack. So we're probably going to get away with this one.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, just to segue very succinctly away from Valentine's Day and the €80 that I wasted on roses, because Captial Grants have been dropping across the country, and hopefully this is money that won't be wasted by clubs around West Cork. And the big one that we want to touch on today is the money that's been received by Bandon Athletics Club, Kieran. What a terrible segue that was, by the way, but regardless.
That was quite smooth. Even by your high standards, that was quite impressive, Jack. But like you said, the Sport Captial Grants, they were revealed late last week, and a lot of West Cork clubs, from GA clubs to soccer clubs and so on, will all be in the receipt of grants, which is great news for so many local clubs. And Bandon Athletic Club are going to receive 290,000 for their outdoor 6 to 8 lane athletics track and field facility that they're currently starting outside Bandon. And this is quite important, because we've spoken with Shane Howard from Bandon Athletic Club on this podcast before, and we touched on the fact that West Cork does not have a proper outside all-weather 400-meter athletic 8 lane athletic track here in West Cork. So young athletes from Bandon Athletic Club have to go up to MTU in the city on Fridays and on Saturdays to avail of the facilities up there. And it's not just the track facilities; it's the outdoor facilities too, like the hammer cage, the shot put. And you think of the talent of athletics in West Cork right now. Okay, we've Phil Healy and Darragh McElhinney who are at the upper end, but the likes of Nicola Tuttle, who was the women's senior national champion before. We've Lauren McCourt, we've Fionn Harrington, we've even Maeve O'Neill and Donnies, all these really talented athletes who just can't avail of the facilities here in West Cork. So for Bandon Athletic Club to get this grant, it's a real vote of confidence in what they're doing. Right now, the site has been fenced off. So anyone passing that site, it's a couple of miles outside Bandon, they can see the size of the project and the development that is starting. So the plan over the next couple of months is to lay the sub base for the track, and that needs to settle and so on. So you're probably looking at spring, summer next year when that outdoor all-weather track will be laid, and including the outdoor facilities to go with that as well. So it's just great news for Bandon Athletic Club that they have this huge injection of cash, this almost seal of approval, if you want, in what they're doing, because this will be a fabulous facility for West Cork. When you consider, like I said, how big athletics is in West Cork right now, and the wave of talent that's on the way up as well. And just to touch on some of the other ones, Jack, before we move on, Skibbereen Rowing Club have got a grant as well. They've got, I think, I'm just going to double check it here. Skibbereen have got 66,000 for a new gym facility that they're going building. So that's obviously Skibbereen. It's the home club to Olympic.
But the only problem I can envisage with Skibbereen Rowing Club investing 66,000 in a new gym is that if they do, they will no longer be able to say, look at the facilities we train here with, and we still win gold medals. There'll be no there'll be no sympathy for them anymore, or no, sympathy is probably the wrong word, but people won't be like, oh, how have they done it with such bare facilities if they're going to have a state-of-the-art gym down there as opposed to homemade weights from old boat engines.
This is almost the reward for what they've done over the years, how they've transformed Irish rowing, how they've put Skibbereen and West Cork on the world map. So it's just great news for the likes of Skibbereen Rowing Club. But even if you're looking at Skibbereen Rugby Club for a second, they've got nearly 130,000 in a sports capital grant for the installation of match quality LED floodlights. So that's another huge boost for Skibbereen. And even Skibbereen Dynamos have got nearly 90,000 for floodlighting and ball stop netting. And I'm just flying through the list here to see can I pick out any more. Downey's GA Club have got 133,000 for dressing rooms upgrade and new fencing. Clonakilty Rugby Club are getting 123,000 in a sports capital grant for an artificial playing surface. Clonakilty GA Club are getting 145,000 in a grant to install LED floodlights. And that's just some of them, Jack. That shows the influx of money that's going to come into West Cork from the sports capital grant scheme. And it's all for the upgrade of facilities of sporting clubs here in West Cork. So congratulations to all the clubs who are going to benefit from this sports capital grant, because what it means is we'll have better facilities here in West Cork for the people currently playing those sports and for the next generation coming up. And that can only be a good thing.
Well, if I was the treasurer of Skibbereen Rowing Club, I would be investing that 66,000 into downgrading their current gym facilities, because look at the success they've had with the bare minimum. Imagine if they had even barer minimum. They'd be producing gold medal winners for every Olympic Games. And on the topic of athletics and Skibbereen Rowing Club, this segue is going to be a lot smoother because Paul O'Donovan's been back in the news this week here, and it's not for rowing, it's for cross-country running.
Paul, we touched this before last year that Paul was lining out for Lee Vale Athletic Club in Cork cross-country county championships. I think it was novice and senior that he ran in late last year, and he turned up again in the Irish intermediate. So this is the national cross-country championships in Castlelyons last Sunday, and he had a very respectable 34th place finish in the intermediate men's race. And I was looking through the results. There was 83 runners there, and Paul finished in 34th. And I think his time was less than 5 minutes behind the winner, which is some going. He'd less than 29 minutes 29 minutes was the time that Paul put in, and the winner was from Clonmel, and he ran it in 25 minutes flat. So it's great stuff to see Paul. Like he's conquered the water, and now he's busy conquering the land as well. So it's a lovely story at this time of the year, because the rowing is going to kick in quite soon. The first World Cup regatta, I think, is in Belgrade at the end of May. So obviously Paul will be back in the water and back in the boat and back in familiar terrain then. But it just goes to show that this man, you've said it before, he's quite unique when it comes to an Irish sports person. He loves a challenge. Whatever he puts his mind to, he will succeed at. And he finished 34th out of 83 runners. And just think about those fellas who finished after him. They're fellas who are probably concentrating cross-country running. Yet this Olympic gold medal athlete hopped out of the boat, throwing a pair of running shoes, and he whizzes around the course. So it's some going by Paul.
It is indeed. And to be fair, I don't think the lads who finished behind him will be too down on themselves, because if I was a mid-ranking club runner and a gold medalist beat me, I wouldn't be like, oh, how could he do it? I'd be like, he is a gold medalist. He is a freak of an athlete, and we know how powerful he is in the boat. So no surprise to see him outperforming half of the field in the cross-country championships. Now, Kieran, we're going to switch our focus to our guest this week, and that's Skibbereen's Laura O'Mahony, who was involved in Shane Ronayne's first game in charge of the Cork senior women's footballers against Meath on Saturday. The last 3 to 4 weeks on this podcast, we've been focusing heavily on Keith Ricken's time in charge of the men, but we have to now switch to Shane Ronayne's time in charge of the women. He's come in and replaced Aoife Fitzgerald, who had a very successful stint as the women's manager. They've got off to a losing start, but they are against the All-Ireland champions in Navan. And overall, what did you think of how they performed, and what's the soundings like coming out of the camp now that Shane Ronayne's very much in situ?
An important side note to the Cork's loss to Meath last Saturday is that Cork were also without their Mourne contingent. And when you consider that there's 8 Mourne players on the Cork panel, that's a sizable chunk to be without. Mourne have been in club action very recently. They were in the All-Ireland club final that they lost a couple of weeks ago. So those players deserve a break. But you're talking about the likes of Darren O'Sullivan, Ciara O'Sullivan, Maura O'Callaghan, Laura Fitzgerald, kind of Ellie Jack is a young player to keep an eye out for. Emer Meany. So they have so many good players there to come back into it. So when you think that a very young Cork team lost only 2-7 to 1-8 away to the All-Ireland champions in their own back door, like it's not a disaster. And there's a lot of positives that Shane Ronayne is going to take from it, especially the fact he gave so many young players a game. Rachel Leahy is still a minor. She came on and she scored a point. Ciara McCarthy came off the bench. Abby O'Mahony, a young player from Glenmire, came on as well. So it was a good workout because it's a tough place to go on your first day into the home of the All-Ireland champions. And I think it'll help just to kind of shake some of the cobwebs off after Cork haven't played since, I think the All-Ireland semi-final was against Meath was last August. So that's a long time without a game. So it's a good game to get under their belt because it doesn't get any easier, Jack. Cork are away to Dublin in Croke Park this Saturday evening. I think it's a 5:15 throw-in and it's live on TG4 and it's actually part of a doubleheader with the Dublin men's. So Cork are going from playing Meath away to playing Dublin away, and Dublin have been the dominant force in ladies football over the last couple of years, and Dublin won their league opener against Waterford last weekend. So it's going to be another huge challenge for Shane Ronayne's team. But these are just the types of games that they need right now. And even for the likes of Laura O'Mahony, who's missed so much time through injury, it'll be another great chance for her to get a full game under her belt.
Okay, well, let's hear from Laura now. You spoke to her a little earlier on.
Delighted now to be joined on the Star Sport podcast by Cork footballer and O'Donovan Ross's star, Laura O'Mahony. Welcome to the podcast, Laura.
Thanks, Kieran. Thanks very much for having me.
It's just a couple of days on from Cork's opening National League game. There was a 2-7 to 1-8 loss away to Meath on Saturday. But putting the result aside for a second, what was it like to get back on the pitch and get that first competitive game with Cork under your belt this season?
To be fair, it was really good. Like, you know yourself that I missed last year's league campaign. So, like, the league and championship are very different in a way that obviously people take championship a lot more seriously, but like league is that opening that you kind of need to get the dust off the boots nearly and get going and like try those new tactics and try new players and things. And I think that's what we did, especially with the new management and things. I think we went out with a fresh head and a fresh mindset and just gave it a go, really.
When I saw the team named on Friday and I saw that half-back line of Laura Mahoney, Melissa Duggan and Erica O'Shea, I was like, Jesus, that's some formidable trio. How did it play out on Saturday for you?
It actually went good anyway, surprisingly good. Melissa was supposed to start centre-back, but when Meath named Vicky Wall, we put Erica on her, so that kind of changed things up a bit, but Erica made a right good go of her anyway. Vicky was almost chasing Erica, so it was good that way, but Erica didn't faze us really.
And like you're saying, it was against Meath, and Meath are All-Ireland champions, and it's a tough group for Cork this year with Dublin as well and Waterford. So looking more closely at the game against Meath. So it's important to note here that Cork were without the Mourne Abbey contingent, and so many young players got their chance as well last Saturday, and so many players came off the bench as well. So there's a lot of positives that Shane and the management team will take from the game.
Yeah, exactly. Like we always have the girls that have been there with the last couple of years, and I think this year what we have is we have the mix between those who have the experience and the new girls coming in, like Rachel Leahy now. She's still minor. Mm-hmm. She's only in 5th year. Dara Canary, another girl, she's only in 6th year. So like bringing those in, like I remember when I was coming on the panel in 6th year, like it's a big stepping stone on for minor. But at the same time, like if you're given your opportunity, you take it. And I think seeing those girls, like they've really pushed us on, and like everyone there is fighting for their place, like especially in the league. Like the league is where you try and prove that you are capable of playing in championship.
and it doesn't get any easier. So from playing All-Ireland champions Meath last weekend, it's a small matter of Dublin in Croke Park this Saturday. I think it's 5:15 throw-in. But these are just the games that Cork need and want right now, because you're playing against the best teams that are out there. And for those younger players, like we said there, like they're going to get a real taste and sample of this is what it's like at the highest level.
Yeah, exactly. Like anyone that we're playing, like we want to go out. I think the main focus this year is that we focus on ourselves, and some things that we've done in previous years, I think that we're going to try and change this year. Like obviously, like it's worked for us in some sense, but in other ways we didn't win the All-Ireland the last couple of years. So we need to start looking at that and looking at where we have gone wrong. And I think changing the tactics and things, and being more on the step forward rather than the step back, hopefully that'll go with us on from the league onto the championship.
Is that one of the differences that new manager Shane Ronayne has made since he's come in? Because I presume it's a clean slate for all the players, and it's a chance for everyone to put their hand up for selection for the league and then obviously for the championship. But have you noticed even a change in approach? Like, does he want Cork to play on their front foot more?
Yeah, I think that's one of the main things that he's trying to emphasize this year, that because we've lost in the last few years, that a few of us have lost confidence and we think nearly, God, are we ever going to win? And I think him coming in and telling us, look, we have the players, like even having Mournabbey, who I know they lost out in the smallest bit to the Galway team this year. Like we still have 8 of those coming onto the panel. Like we have the contingency to be winning. So we just need to start believing in ourselves more, I think.
When I saw the Cork panel was unveiled last week for the National League, like it's such a strong panel again. And obviously like the Mournabbey players you said there, but the likes of Martino O'Brien is back, Orla Finn, Anya Terry, all those kind of experienced stalwarts are there as well. So it must be a pretty exciting time in the Cork camp right now. Like obviously the league has started now with the championship coming up, but what's the mood like inside there?
It's actually very positive. Like I know we lost out on a bad note in the semi-final against Meath. You know, we were up so many points, and to lose then by the point, like obviously the heads dropped. But I think this year the main focus is that it's a fresh start. Like we have the fresh players, we have new players, but we have the old faces as well that everyone knows of. And I think the mix between that is something that we can be positive about and that we can use to our strengths this year.
You touched on it earlier in our chat, Laura, about you missed 11 months of football there, and you only got back playing last season. So let's go back to 2020 when you suffered a knee injury that kept you out. Like you were only just such a young player still. What was that like for you facing such a long journey out?
To be honest, it was very strange because I had never been badly injured before. Like I'd only have a few niggles here and there. But I remember when I got injured and it was a warm down, like it was so odd that like I was like, surely it'll only be a week or two, a training or two. And then when I was told, first I was diagnosed that it was a tear to my cruciate, but after they said that was a misdiagnosis, that it was something got to do with my hips and things and just my alignment. But regardless, like it did cause that I needed a lot of workload. I needed a lot of rehab to try and fix that and things. And I suppose I was just out of leaving cert, and I was from like doing all my leaving cert, going up to training 3 times, 4 times a week. So I think the fact that I was in college nearly helped, and that it was actually locked down helped that I could have that bit of break, that I was used to the workload to try and do my rehab. So it helped in that sense that it was the COVID year, we'll say, took it to my advantage.
But the good news is you got back on the pitch last year, and you got back in the pitch for both Cork and for your club, O'Donovan Ross. And I think you made your comeback in the championship. But just for you to get back on the pitch after being out for so long, that must have been a great feeling.
Yeah, definitely. Like I think like people always say it, but you only miss something when it's gone. You only appreciate it when it's gone as well. So the fact that I could get back on, I think it was the All-Ireland quarter-final against Waterford that I made my first start for in over a year and a bit, I'd say. It just was really special that Aoife and his team counted on me then and gave me the go that I was able to come back, and that was kind of the boost I needed.
Like there was a real kind of a seal of approval, like you said there, like the fact that Aoife went to you straight away. I think you played against Tip in the championship, then you started against Waterford, and you even came on in the All-Ireland semi-final against Meath. So you got those games to kind of to help you come back into it, and then that almost fed into the club season then, because I presume it just took time to, I suppose, to shake off the cobwebs and the rustiness because you had been out for so long.
Yeah, exactly. Like you can do so much rehab in the gym and you can come back onto the pitch running and things, but it's completely different going into a game. I remember it was the start of summer last year, or in 2020, that I was coming back and we were playing an AVB, and they said, look, I'm ready to come on now and play. And it was my first in, I'd say, 11 months that I had played any bit of football. And I remember one ball coming straight at me and it just went straight through my hands out through the middle, and I didn't know what was going on, but it came back quick enough. It comes back quicker. I think, like, I was like, will I ever be able to get back up to the pace of things if I was missing even the ball? But I think club helped with that as well. Like, even I went back training with the club girls for a while just to get my ball skills back up and things.
Before we chatted on Navan, I have to, I suppose, talk a small bit about Aoife Fitzgerald as well, because he was the obviously the previous Cork manager before Shane, but he also moved you from wing forward to wing back, and that's a because we know from your time at West Cork that Brian McCarthy, the West Cork manager, he always saw you as a wing forward, but then Aoife saw enough for you to say, I want to try Laura out at wing back. So how do you find that change, and what is the big difference?
I suppose the difference is that, like, I'm personally myself don't find myself as the strongest shooter or targeter on the goal. Now I know that comes down to a certain amount of practice as well, but I think that I have that flair for getting the hand in quickly and a tackle and things, and I'm more comfortable on the front foot rather than turning and facing towards the goal and trying to win it that way. I think I'm just more confident to, like, time my run and run onto the wing forward rather than trying to get the ball from the midfielder and keeping it wide.
And even having that versatility, it's a great kind of more weapon in your arsenal to use, because from a manager's point of view, viewed in, he knows that he can play you in the attack, he can play you in the half back line. So that versatility is very important as well.
Yeah, exactly. Like last year for the All-Ireland quarter-final, Aoife's tactic was that the wing forwards would track back and then we break on the run, and that suited me perfectly because I like running, I like tackling, I like being on the front foot, we'll say, rather than trying to win it up front.
And then, like we said, we were chatting earlier, and you said about your comeback last year for Cork, and then that fed into the club season. And what a year for Donovan Rossa, winning the County Junior B Championship, and you're going up to Junior A this year. How special was that for the club to win the Cork Junior B title?
Yeah, it was very special. It was a long time coming, especially losing out the year before. I think that we were all just so hungry to win it this year. I obviously missed out on the one the year before. So personally, I was just really wanting to win it. Junior B is a stepping stone almost to Junior A. I think when you get to Junior A, it's almost like you're at one of the higher grades, like Junior A, intermediate, senior. So I think now that we've got to Junior A, like, we are really pushing on. I think the girls are training at the weekends and just putting their head on it now just for the next season.
What was the difference with Skibbereen between 2020 and 2021? What do you think made a difference that helped you take that extra step last year?
I actually think it was the losing of the final that really drove it home, that we needed to push on that extra step. Even when you're doing sprints at training, like if you're 2 steps in front of the cone, like I think that was the 2 steps that we knew we needed to make the next year, and that's what the girls did. I know I wasn't training with them for a lot of it, but when Cork finished up then after the semi-final, I was back with them, and I think I got my time with them as well to knit it all together again.
And Junior A, like you said there, Laura, it's very competitive. Like Donnies are going to be there, so that nice local rivalry this year. But we've seen in the last couple of years the likes of Valleys and Castlehaven come through Junior A and go up to intermediate and so on. So Junior A, it could be a great springboard and a platform to even bigger and better things. Yeah,
exactly. I think it's not out of reach at all to aim to win the Junior A this year. Like when you look at Valleys winning and they're gone up to senior now, and Castlehaven winning Junior B to Junior A, and now they're gone to intermediate. So I think, like, it's not out of reach at all, but I just think that we need to know that it's going to be harder this year, that the tackles being made and just the fast speed of the game will increase.
But before the club season rolls around, you're so busy at the moment, like, with your Cork commitments, and even with UCC at the moment where you're in college. So fill us in on the O'Connor Cup and what's the latest there at UCC?
So 2 weeks ago now we played Queen's in the first round of it, and we won that, I think, by 6 or 7 points. So we actually are playing UL tomorrow, Tuesday. That's on in the Murdoch. So I think we have to win 2 games out of our 3. We have UCD then again next week, and winning 2, I think that brings us into the weekend then
And
in
I suppose
March.
kind of even managing that workload between college and county at this stage of the season, like that's very important too.
Yeah, exactly. I was on placement at the start of January, and I just think between placement and training with UCC and training with Cork, I just got a bit run down. I picked up a niggle in my hip flexor and things, and the physio Sinead O'Regan from Ross even just took me aside and said, "Look, can you not see that you're stressed out, it's your workload?" And we got one weekend off, and I really used it just to rest and recover, sleeping, eating properly, doing all the things that recovery needs. And I have seen the improvements already. Like my hip flexors, both of them they're back good as new.
So after your touch wood and your injury problems are long behind you, are you feeling fit and I suppose really relishing this season, like the chance to get a full season under your belt for the first time since probably 2019, would it?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. Yeah, no, definitely. I think we started at the start of December with fitness and things with our new S&C Paul. And he's really put us through the paces, but I think it's standing to us, even trying to keep up with Meath, and their counter attack is just so fast. No matter how far up the pitch you get, they'll just break. So I think that's what fitness is needed for, and it'll be the same against Dublin. Their kicking really works for them. So I think fitness wise, I am getting there anyway, but I've another bit to go yet.
And you'll be tested in Croke Park this Saturday. But for players to get the chance to play in Croke Park so early in the season in a big game, it's another good experience to get under the belt.
Yeah, exactly. Even for the likes of the younger girls, like I was saying, like Rachel Leahy and Dara, they've probably never played there. And I remember my first time playing there, I missed the final, the 2020 final, because of my knee. But before that, I played in the league campaign against Dublin up there, and we had no crowds at the time because of COVID, and I think that's going to be one of the big changes. I think the Dublin men are playing after us against Mayo, so hopefully some of that crowd will be there and to drive us on as well.
Like we were saying, these are the games that Cork need and want right now against the Meaths and the Dublins of this world. But if you go back to last year's All-Ireland semi-final, obviously it was heartbreaking for Cork to lose that late lead against Meath, who went on to win the All-Ireland. But the fact that Cork were so close to winning that semi-final, it shows that you just aren't that far away from getting your hands on the prize that you want.
Yeah, exactly. I think sure, we were up that in that game, we were the ones winning, and a few little mistakes cost us on the day. But I think even knowing that we were ahead and knowing that we could have beaten the now All-Ireland champions is enough for us to drive on this year. Even in the league final against Dublin, we were close as well. Mm-hmm. So it's inches really between the 3 or 4 teams that are up there at the moment.
And hopefully Cork will find those extra inches this year and pass everyone out. And Laura, best of luck for the season ahead. We'll be following your progress very closely with Cork, UCC and O'Donovan Rossa. And thanks for coming on for a chat today.
Thanks, Kieran. Thank you.
Access Credit Union now offers Cultivate Farm Finance and is ready to support local farmers. With a Cultivate loan, farmers in West Cork can benefit from the local decision-making and personal service offered by their credit union. To find out more, go to www.accesscu.ie/cultivate or call on 028 21883.
Now, Kieran, in a moment, we're going to preview this week's Southern Star sports section. But just something I wanted to touch on before we do that is Ireland's Six Nations performance against France on Saturday. They were beaten despite a spirited effort. Unfortunately, Gavin Coombs wasn't involved, but still, I just wanted to get your own thoughts. Were you watching the game? What did you think of the performance overall? And of course, what was your take on the question on everyone's lips? And that is, were Ireland right to take the 3 points as opposed to kicking it into the corner when the game was in the melting pot?
I think with the beauty of hindsight, you'd say that they weren't right to take that kick when they're on the front foot and only 6 points behind at the time, wasn't it? So yeah. Obviously, a converted try there would have made all the difference. You would have liked to have seen Ireland go for the kill there, kind of show that killer instinct and just go all out, because it's so hard to win over in France. Is it 3 times in the last 20 years or so that Ireland have won there? And they had momentum at the time. They were on the front foot, but they went for the 3 points, and Carvery nailed the kick, but then they just didn't get an opportunity after that. So overall, it was a It was a tough day at the office for Ireland. Are we still dealing in moral victories at this stage? I don't know where we are with in terms of that. Like like I said, it's hard to go to France. It's hard to go to Twickenham to get results. Ireland came quite close, but they'll be disappointed not to win that game. And maybe that's a good place for Ireland, the Irish rugby team, to be now, that they're disappointed not to win away to a very good French team that will only get better. I suppose the big disappointing fact is Gavin Coombs hasn't featured yet in the last couple of games, but you can see why. Obviously, he missed the autumn international, so he didn't figure in Andy Farrell's plans. And there's a very set team there at the moment, and so Gavin's going to find it hard to get a chance, maybe against Italy next up. I know Gavin's been released, one of the players released back into their province for the rugby championships, the club action this weekend. So hopefully he'll get back at a game under his belt and go back into the Ireland setup next week, and we might see him then. But yeah, like I said, a moral victory, Jack. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I thought it was an absolutely shocking decision for them to go over the post at that stage of the game. As someone who isn't like a major rugby fan or like knows too much about it, I watched the games, etc. And I said even at the time, and I think I know nothing about it, I said, this is absolutely crazy to be going. Are they trying to get a draw? Like, what good is a draw in rugby? There's no Grand Slam for drawing games. So yeah, I thought it was absolutely baffling. And obviously it's not an original thought that I'm having, but if big sexy Johnny Sexton is on the field in that moment, he's not taking those points. He's going to the corner. But anyway, that was my 2 cents. If anyone wants to hire me to write or analyse rugby, I'm available. But it's not going to be the most insightful analysis you'll get. But Kieran, let's leave that there. And as you said, hopefully Gavin will be involved in the Italy game. And yeah, we might start campaigning for that next week. We'll campaign for his inclusion and maybe start some kind of a petition perhaps. But regardless, this week's Southern Star will be in shops on Thursday. We've touched on a lot of what's going to be included, but maybe just give us a brief summation of some of the things readers can be looking forward to.
Yeah, plenty of GA action. Obviously, the intercounty is going quite strong, but looking at the colleges football scene for a second, Mount St. Michael came up short in their Munster under-19 B colleges football final against Abbey CBS last Saturday in Mallow. We have a full report from that. But congratulations to Beara Community School, who won the Munster under-19 D football final. So we have a full report and reaction from that. And Beara are now going through to the All-Ireland semi-final at the end of the month against the Ulster champions. So that's good news for Beara football there. Looking at athletics again for a second, we talked about it earlier, but it was a great weekend last weekend for both Phil Healy and Darren McElhinney, who both set new PBs. And with the National Indoor Championships coming up the weekend after this, they're both in flying form. So they're two to watch there. And a big one for Dara is that he got the World Indoor Championships 3,000 meter men's qualifying standard. So that means that Dara has run under the time that's needed to qualify for the World Indoors in Belgrade next month. So if he puts in a good performance at the National Indoors and he finishes in the top two in the men's 3,000 meters, the odds are he will be picked and he will go to Belgrade, which would be superb. And it was just great to see him run that PB in Metz, France last Saturday. So actually, Jack, that was one Irishman who had a good Saturday in France. That was Darren McElhinney. He had his new indoor 3,000 meter PB. He took nearly 5 seconds off his old time. And I was talking to him after on Saturday night, and he was always disappointed. And this is the Darren McElhinney that we know. Like, he's just gone faster than he ever had before. And he was saying, but I could have gone even faster again. So it's a great place for Darren to be. So he's only going to get better and better and better and better. And also looking at this week's Southern Star, we have a 2-page special on the West Cork Schoolboys and Schoolgirls League Awards night that were held in the Celtic Ross last Saturday. Here in the Southern Star, we sponsored the Player of the Year Awards in all the age grades from under 12 up to under 16. And the overall Player of the Year was crowned as well. And that was Skibbereen's Danny O'Donovan, under 14 player with Skibbereen AFC. So huge congrats to him. So we have a 2-page spread packed full of photos from all the award winners at that Schoolboys Awards night. My last word column this week focuses on Orla Cronin. She's our Cork Camogie star from Inniskeen. She's injured at the moment, so she won't feature in Cork's opening league game against Clare this weekend. But I'm just putting the question out there. Is this the time for Orla to step it up even more and become one of the country's top players? Because she has the skill, she has the talent, I think she has the mentality as well. So I'm just posing that question. So that's well worth a read. And another one is we're looking at 8 local derbies that we're already looking forward to in the county championships later in the year. We saw the county championship draw last week, and we've been blessed here in West Cork with a couple of huge crackers coming up. Just to touch on the Premier Senior Football Championship, we've Clonakilty, Castlehaven, Newcestown and Nemo Rangers in their one group like that. That's just cruel in some ways. Brilliant for us in the Star because it's brilliant game after brilliant game, but just for those 4 teams to be put in against each other, like, it's an incredible group. But looking down to Senior A, we also have O'Donovan Rossa against Island Rovers, and we're going to call that El Skibico. What do you get at, Jack, for a name of a derby, El Skibico?
Yeah, I like it. Obviously, it falls in line with all the great derbies around the world. I did try to come up with my own one that incorporated the Island River somehow, but I couldn't better El Skibico, so I'm going to give you the W on this one. And yeah, a massive game to look forward to. So yeah, I can't wait for the build up and everything that comes with that one.
And I know it's months away because that game won't be till July or August, but we're starting the build up in this week's Southern Star because Donald O'Sullivan has spoken to Florrie O'Driscoll from Island Rovers just to get a state of the nation and where Island are right now down in the Senior A football grade after the relegation from the Premier Senior. So that's another piece where we're checking out in Thursday's Southern Star. And the final bit I'm just going to flag is Jack Gower, our Skibbereen Olympian. We've claimed him as one of our own. He's the UK-born Irish skier with very, very strong links to skib through his grandmother. He finished off his Winter Olympics in the Grand Slalom last weekend, but it was last Thursday where Jack hit the headlines when he had the best ever result at a Winter Olympics for an Irish alpine skier when he finished 12th, which is a huge result for him. So I'm putting that down for the look of Skibbereen, we'll call it, for want of a better phrase, because when it comes to the Summer Olympics, skib athletes excel. And now at the Winter Olympics, an Irish skier with very, very strong skib links has done better than any other Irish alpine skier had ever done at a Winter Olympics. So that's another one for this week's Star. So you can see, Jack, we are creaking at the seams this week. The sport is falling off the pages.
And it's only February. Wait till the height of summer. That will be in shops, of course, from Thursday morning across West Cork and across the country. It'll also be available online if you subscribe to our digital edition. Just go to www.southernstar.ie/e-paper and subscribe to the Southern Star on your computer, tablet or smartphone for less than €2 per week. Thanks for listening to the Star Sport podcast, and thanks to our sponsors, Access Credit Union. We'll be back at the same time next week. If you enjoy these shows, please make sure to rate, review and subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, YouTube or wherever you listen to or watch podcasts. Slán Tamil.